You was probably thinking like, girl, why is you talking about this? But the reality is that a lot of us are suffering from certain things, anywhere from anxiety, depression, mood swings, sinus infections, you know, chronic eczema and psoriasis, and we don't even understand why it's happening. And we might go to the doctor and they might not even really be able to give us a good reason as to why it's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my opinion, and maybe you'll agree with it and maybe you won't. Hopefully it'll help somebody. Maybe it won't, who knows, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So here we go. Let me explain. Why am I discussing Candida overgrowth? I'm discussing Candida overgrowth because I think that it is something that is very much so overlooked when we're thinking about our own health. A lot of us are the picture of perfect health, or at least I am. I feel like I am, and I rarely ever get sick. But there are a couple of common things or chronic things that I have been experiencing over the years, and it led me to do some research. And I have, kind of self-diagnosed myself with Candida overgrowth, or had diagnosed myself with Candida overgrowth, because I ended up finding a couple of solutions. And we'll talk about that later on. But before we get into it, let's just go ahead and discuss what Candida is. Candida is basically a form of yeast that is present in the body, and for the most part it is harmless, just as long as it remains at a neutral kind of balanced level in our body. But the second that it becomes out of control and it grows out of control, that's when it causes problems. I also want to note that before I state the causes, that Candida overgrowth can happen in anybody, not just women, because I know a lot of times when we think about yeast overgrowth, we think about yeast overgrowth down there in the genitals. But even though both men and women can have yeast infections can occur throughout the entire body. The causes, or some of the causes, of yeast overgrowth throughout the body can be diabetes, stress, smoking, presumably of any kind. Pregnancy can cause a yeast overgrowth. Taking certain medications such as birth control pills can also cause yeast overgrowth. And hormonal imbalances. And this is not an exhaustive list, but these are just a few causes of Candida overgrowth. So again, you ask, why is this important? This is important because certain symptoms that come along with yeast overgrowth are widely overlooked, but they can wreak havoc on our body, and they can go undetected and fly under the radar for such a long time, and we don't even realize that it's the cause of some of our chronic issues. These are some of the most commonly found symptoms when you have a Candida overgrowth: bad breath, chronic sinus infections, brain fog or difficulty concentrating, chronic fatigue. Are you always tired for some reason? It doesn't matter what you do, you just cannot shake the feeling of being tired. Are you always irritable or moody? Do you experience digestive issues such as gas and bloating? Do you find yourself having anxiety or symptoms that are similar to that of someone who is depressed? Do you oftentimes look around and you find rashes on your body that just you don't know where they come from, but they're just there? Do you often have skin issues such as, flare-ups of eczema or psoriasis? Do you oftentimes crave very sugary or carb-heavy foods? So what I want you to do is pause the video and go look in the mirror. Well, wait, follow these instructions first. So pause the video, go look in the mirror, stick your tongue out, and look and see, do you have a white film going across your tongue? If you do, that's called thrush, and that is a sign of yeast overgrowth. Yes, it's embarrassing. Yes, there are a lot of people who have it. There are a lot of people who don't even realize that they have it until they stick out their tongue and it's like, ooh, wait, ugh. But, you don't have to tell anybody. That stays between you and yourself. You don't even have to tell me. But if you look in the mirror and you find that you have thrush on your tongue, that is a symptom and a sign, the clear sign, one of the most obvious signs that you have Candida overgrowth in the body. So let me go back and say that this is important to me because I experienced a few of these symptoms myself. One being the chronic sinus infections. Originally, I figured due to the fact that I lived in a very cold area of the United States, Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a long, long time, that was a contributing factor to me having chronic sinus infections. But the reality is that that just wasn't the case. I came to realize that the sinus infections were not the only chronic issue that I was having. As a matter of fact, I ended up having to deal with psoriasis flare ups on my scalp, and they got worse during certain times of the month. And I noticed that they got worse whenever I would, let go and let loose and let my sweet tooth control me. I would end up having those flare ups. So, chronic sinus infections, the flare ups of the psoriasis on my scalp, the chronic fatigue, and the anxiety. Now, I'm someone who naturally suffers from anxiety, but it would be like almost to the point where it was crippling. Like, I just couldn't shake my anxiety. I just couldn't shake being so tired and stressed out all the time. I know there are a lot of people out here who are suffering with certain mental illnesses, who don't necessarily know why they're suffering from it. And I'm not saying that Candida causes mental illnesses, but I'm saying that if you are, for whatever reason, overly moody from time to time and you just aren't sure why, it's definitely something to look into. So the first solution in solving that Candida overgrowth in your body is looking at your diet. Definitely take a look and take an inventory of what you eat on a regular basis, even a daily or hour to hour basis, and see what sugary foods, what carb heavy foods that you can afford to cut out. What you can do is little by little at a time. If you're used to drinking a lot of fruit juices, if you're used to, taking in all types of sugary sweets in your diet, slowly but surely cut them out. If you're having sweets or if you're having sweet drinks with every meal throughout the day, it can be difficult to completely cut it out. So start small. Instead of having 5 sodas a day, take it down to 2 or 3. Instead of having 2 candy bars with every meal, or a candy bar with every meal, or some ice cream with every meal, try to skip a meal, or only eat one sweet thing a day until you can actually get a grip on the amount of sugar that you're taking in on a daily or even weekly basis. Another thing you can do is try supplements. This is something it took me a while to kind of research and find on my own, but when I did, I was so thankful that I actually found something to help calm down and balance out that yeast or that bacteria that's naturally found in our guts. So I'm not necessarily sure if you're gonna be able to see this. Hopefully it'll show up on camera. I don't even know if it's going to be backwards or not, but it's from the Vitamin Shoppe and it's called Yeast Fend. Now, this is a dietary supplement. Some of them can only be taken for a certain amount of days, but this is actually a daily supplement and it can be taken daily. You can take up to 3 of these pills daily and it will help balance out the amount of yeast that you have in your body. So it basically kills the overgrowth. When I first took this, I promise you, like the oral thrush, gone within a day. Fatigue, gone. The most important thing, the chronic sinus infections, as well as the psoriasis flare-ups on my scalp, completely gone. It is literally the easiest way to basically reset your body and try to start over. When I know I've been eating terribly unhealthy for, weeks at a time, and I just, for whatever reason, because sugar is like a drug, it's really hard to kick. And once you start grabbing for unhealthy snacks here and there, all of a sudden you find yourself just in this funk that you can't get out of. And so when I know I've gone overboard, and a lot of times it's around that time of the month because I literally just can't help it. My hormones are out of whack and I need a piece of chocolate. But that can literally send me into overdrive, and I can literally be eating just all types of unhealthy things. And I look up and my period is gone, but I'm still eating terribly unhealthy, and it's been weeks. And so when I know that I need to slow down, and usually the biggest like indicator is that my scalp starts to like get inflamed and it feels like it's on fire. It feels like tiny fire ants are literally crawling all around my scalp. I know that that is an indicator that I need to go ahead and reset my body and take these pills. And yeast overgrowth definitely affects, I feel like it affects more people than what we realize. And so I hope that this video kind of helps you think about those symptoms. Think about if you're having those symptoms. Have you had any symptoms? Talk about it down in the comment section if you have, and what are some things that you have done if you know that you've had Candida overgrowth in your body. What are some of the things that you've actually done to curb that or to solve that issue? I hope this helps. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.